that you will begin to make things right.
I originally interpreted the opening line of The Force Awakens as a dig at the prequels, but now I believe there's another, far more subtle meaning to the line, and has everything to do with Rey's origins. Rey's lineage is important because it is the key to connecting the prequels with the original trilogy and fixing some of the story problems the prequels created. But I believe the surprise in store for us has to do with her grandparents, one of whom is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and not her parents. Obi-Wan Kenobi as Rey's grandfather is nothing new, so the reveal that Rey is related to him will be a nice twist, but I don't believe it will be the bombshell that gets everyone saying spoiler alert. The big shock will be learning who her grandmother is. Rey's grandmother is someone we know, and is a person who connects the threads of the Skywalker and Kenobi families, the two families central to the Star Wars universe. And that person is Padme Amidala. That's right. I believe Padme Amidala did not die in the prequels. And how do I know this? First the evidence, and then I'll get into why her surviving childbirth could actually make the overall story richer. Going with the most obvious one first. Fine if you disagree, but I think the physical resemblance of Rey and Padme is intentional. The funeral contains one of the key clues that Padme's death was faked. For one, whoever prepared her for the funeral made her look pregnant to deceive Anakin that his children were also dead. Perhaps only to fool him, though, because wasn't all that supposed to be a secret? Why would they even bother faking that? But even more importantly, how would that person know to place Anakin's Japor necklace into Padme's hands? The only one present when Anakin gave it to Padme was a snoring Jar Jar. And as far as I can tell, she never wore it again. So how would anyone know the necklace had any significance for her? Who, beside Padme, would even think to place it in her hands? Only Padme would even think to do this. Padme goes to her death, professing that Anakin is still good. She may have acquiesced to faking her death and separating from her children to protect them, but she probably wasn't about to do so quietly. Holding on to Anakin's necklace during her funeral may have been a small act of protest over what she was about to do. Obi-Wan and Yoda had given up on Anakin, but she had not. Perhaps the necklace, and her holding it, was a symbol of that. Besides droids, whose memories can easily be erased, only Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Bail Organa knew what happened to Padme and the children. At the end of Revenge of the Sith, they all talk about what to do, but not once do they confirm that Padme has died. Maybe it would have been redundant to do so, but in a script full of redundancies, it is curious that they never said anything. Besides, the three of them had just as much reason to fake Padme's death as they did to hide her children. If the Emperor, and later Vader, knew she was alive, she would have been a hunted woman. The Emperor is the only person to say Padme has died, and we know he's a liar and was just trying to manipulate Anakin. So basically, faking Padme's death was convenient for everyone. In the beginning of Attack of the Clones, Padme's ship is attacked and we see her die in the explosion. It's quickly revealed that it was her double that was actually killed. Could this have been a way that Lucas foreshadowed another one of her deaths? One that wouldn't be revealed as a fake until the later films that he was planning?
Luke, what's wrong?
Leia, do you remember your mother? Your real mother?
Just a little bit. She died when I was very young.
What do you remember?
Just images, really. Feelings.
Tell me.
She was very beautiful. Kind, but sad. Why are you asking me this?
I have no memory of my mother. I never knew her.
On Endor, as C-3PO catches the Ewoks up on everything that's happened in the galaxy to this point, Luke and Leia talk outside, and Luke asks Leia a curious question. What is amazing to me now in watching this scene is that Leia doesn't bat an eye to Luke's odd phrasing. After all, what does he mean by her real mother? Did Leia ever share a story of him finding out the Organas were not her true parents? It goes even further. Luke states that he never knew his mother, but what is important is what he says before that. I have no memory of her. Is it possible Luke, with his newfound realizations, now feels that his mother was indeed a presence in his life? He does not know her because he has no memory of her, not because she was not there with him as a child, perhaps watching him afar, but with him nonetheless. This is not really evidence, but it segues into why Padme surviving to be Rey's grandmother helps redeem the prequels, if I can say that. Because next to Vader's nose screen, Padme's death has to be one of the most ridiculed ideas in the whole prequels. This at least could fix that. So with that in mind, let's move on to the reasons why Padme as Rey's grandmother could make the overall story even richer. It's always assumed that from the very beginning, the Emperor was trying to corrupt Anakin. But after Padme's assassination attempt, the Emperor suggested that Padme be placed under the guard of Obi-Wan Kenobi, not Anakin. Anakin was a Padawan at the time, so can we at least entertain the idea that the Emperor was in fact trying to place Obi-Wan with Padme because she might bring about the downfall of an actual Jedi? It certainly would have created more chaos than the downfall of a Padawan. Did the Emperor sense that Obi-Wan may have had feelings for Padme? Obi-Wan is constantly stressing patience and thoughtful action when teaching Anakin. But during a second attempt on Padme's life, Obi-Wan senses the danger, just as Anakin does, and then leaps through a window to jump at Padme's robotic attacker. Did Obi-Wan's deeply hidden and suppressed attraction to Padme get the better of his Jedi senses? It's also possible that the source of Anakin's discontent with Obi-Wan is manifested when Padme comes into the picture because he, like the Emperor, senses the feelings Obi-Wan has for her.
Bury your feelings deep down, Luke. They do you credit, but they could be made to serve the Emperor.
Alright, so let's speed back to The Force Awakens and the supposed grammatical error in the title crawl. I'm going to spare you the grammar lesson, but the sentence about Leia looking for her brother Luke implies that she has another brother. I believe that when Leia met her real mother, Padme, she may have also met her half-brother, the son of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and may have told Luke about him as well. So where would Luke start in his rebuilding of the Jedi Order? With the son of his former master, his and Leia's half-brother. This whole idea of bringing balance to the Force by destroying the dark side always bugged me. After all, wouldn't a universe of dark and light be in balance? I believe the new films will stick with the idea that Anakin was immaculately conceived, but I'd argue that the Jedi misinterpreted the prophecy that he would bring order to the Force. Instead, I think he brought disorder to the Force because his birth was an unnatural act. It's implied that Anakin might have been created by a Sith Lord named Darth Plagueis, who may or may not be Snoke. The only thing human or natural about Anakin came from his mother, Shmi. This humanity saved Anakin in the end, when faced with the murder of his son, and Padme's humanity perhaps enabled Luke and Leia to greater resist the dark side of the Force. Ren, as Solo said, has too much Vader in him. So what needs to be done to bring balance back into the Force? A restoration of the natural order, the death of Anakin, and perhaps of the Skywalker line. Obi-Wan almost did so, and through Rey, who very much resembles Padme, the work may yet be finished.
That boy is our last hope.
No, there is another.
The idea that Padme survived and had a child with Obi-Wan could add a little depth to the original trilogy as well. It's often been assumed that Yoda was talking about Leia when he told Obi-Wan there was another, but yet Luke never trained her. Perhaps Leia was not the one Yoda was speaking about after all, but rather he was speaking about Obi-Wan's child. And maybe after Return of the Jedi, Luke learned the truth and went out searching for his half-brother when he began to rebuild the Jedi Order. Maybe Padme was dead by that point, or maybe not, and Luke had a chance to meet her and tell her of his father's redemption. The duel between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi in Episode 4 would even be more personal if there was in fact a love triangle between them and Padme. Also, think about the fact that if Obi-Wan had a child with Padme and had hidden Anakin's children, that the final confrontation between the two of them would even have more layers of meaning. Is it possible that love destroyed Luke's Jedi Order? Luke, knowing that the history of his parents and of his master Obi-Wan's relationship, may have condoned a relationship between two Jedi in training. One of the Jedi would have been his half-brother, who was eventually Rey's father. This act of compassion, of understanding the humanity, the crude matter of the Jedi, sowed the seeds of Kylo Ren's eventual rejection of the Order and his embrace of the strength represented by Snoke. It is implied that Luke did not train Kylo Ren directly, so why would he have so much guilt about failing to do so properly? I believe that Luke's guilt was actually tied into the consequences of a decision to allow 2 Jedi, one his half-brother, to have a child and yet remain in the Order. For Luke, this was done because he knew the history of his family. But for Kylo Ren, this was heresy, a sign of weakness. I believe it began his trajectory toward the dark side. The dark side is uncompromising and deals in absolute, as Obi-Wan put it. Kylo Ren wants to finish his grandfather's work of bringing order to the galaxy. And it is pretty clear that he worships at the throne of Darth Vader and not of Anakin Skywalker. He rejects the humanity of the Skywalker line. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening, and enjoy Episode 8 and the holidays.